The email arrived at 6:12 a.m. Mark Rivera read it twice before the words made sense. Effective immediately. His hands trembled as he stood in the quiet kitchen of his small rented house. Pancakes sizzled on the stove. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, sat at the table coloring a picture of their family, just the two of them, holding hands under a crooked yellow sun. "Daddy, why did you stop flipping them?" she asked. Mark swallowed the lump in his throat. He had just been fired. After 10 years of teaching history at Westfield Public School, after staying late to tutor struggling kids, after using his own money to buy classroom supplies, he was gone with one cold email from Principal Howard. And rent was due in 5 days. The trouble had started a week earlier. Westfield had a new student, quiet, sharp-eyed, wearing worn-out sneakers but carrying himself with strange confidence. His name was Ethan Cole. Ethan asked questions that stunned the class. Why do leaders forget the people who elected them? He once asked during a lesson on revolutions. The class laughed nervously. Mark didn't. Sometimes, Mark replied carefully, power makes people forget what it felt like to struggle. Ethan nodded, as if filing that away. But Principal Howard didn't like the attention Ethan drew. He had warned Mark privately. Stick to the textbook, Mr. Rivera. We don't need philosophical debates. Mark had smiled politely. Critical thinking is part of education. Howard's jaw tightened. Not if it stirs trouble. The real conflict came during a parent observation day. Principal Howard invited several, influential, community members to observe classes. He wanted perfect order, quiet obedience, and high test scores on display. But that day, Mark did what he always did, he encouraged discussion. When a student asked why some communities lacked funding while others thrived, Mark answered honestly. Because systems aren't always fair. But education gives you the power to change that. There was silence in the room. Principal Howard, standing at the back, looked furious. The next morning, Mark was called into his office. "You're dismissed," Howard said flatly. "For teaching. For pushing agendas. For insubordination. For refusing to follow directives." Mark felt heat rise in his chest. "I teach kids to think." Howard leaned back. "And I teach staff to follow policy." Security escorted Mark out like a criminal. Students watched through classroom windows. Lily, who attended the same school, burst into tears. "Daddy." Mark forced a smile and waved. Inside, he was breaking. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Mark stared at the ceiling in the dark. He wasn't afraid of hard work. He had survived worse, losing his wife to illness 3 years ago, medical bills piling up, nights crying quietly so Lily wouldn't hear. But this felt like humiliation. How would he explain to Lily that he couldn't afford her school anymore? How would he tell her the world punished people for doing the right thing? The next morning, Westfield Public School buzzed with unusual excitement. Teachers whispered in the hallway. "There's a helicopter." "What?" In the football field, students pressed their faces to windows. A sleek black helicopter descended slowly onto school grounds, wind whipping leaves into spirals. Principal Howard stormed outside, red-faced. "Who authorized this?" The helicopter door opened. Out stepped a tall man in a tailored suit, silver at the temples, commanding yet calm. Beside him walked Ethan, the quiet new student. Gasps rippled across the field. The man extended his hand. "Good morning. I'm Daniel Cole." Recognition hit like lightning. Daniel Cole, tech billionaire. Founder of one of the largest educational software companies in the country. Principal Howard suddenly smiled too widely. "Mr. Cole, if we'd known you were visiting." "You did know," Daniel interrupted smoothly. "You knew my son enrolled here last month." Howard blinked. "Your son?" Ethan stepped forward. "Yes, sir." The principal's face drained of color. Daniel's voice hardened. "My son came home every day talking about one teacher. A teacher who made him feel seen, challenged, inspired." Howard forced a laugh. "Well, we strive for excellence." He said the teacher was fired yesterday. Silence fell heavy over the field. Daniel's gaze sharpened. "Mr. Mark Rivera." Whispers spread through the students. Lily stood frozen near the steps. Principal Howard cleared his throat. "Unfortunately, Mr. Rivera violated instructional guidelines." Daniel turned to Ethan. "Did he?" Ethan shook his head. "He told us the truth." Daniel faced Howard again. "Truth is not a violation." Howard's composure cracked. "We must maintain standards. You dismissed a dedicated educator for encouraging critical thinking." Daniel's voice rose just enough to cut through the air. "Do you know how rare that is?" Teachers exchanged glances. Daniel gestured toward the helicopter. "I didn't come here for a photo opportunity. I came with a proposal." Howard straightened, hopeful. Daniel continued, effective immediately. My foundation is withdrawing its pending technology grant from Westfield. Gasps. That funding would have upgraded your entire campus, Daniel said evenly. Instead, I will be investing in a new independent academy. He paused. And I would like Mr. Mark Rivera to lead it. The world seemed to stop. Lily's hand flew to her mouth. Teachers stared in disbelief. Principal Howard sputtered. You can't just. I can, Daniel replied calmly. And I have. Meanwhile, across town, Mark was packing books into a cardboard box when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Mr. Rivera. The voice was smooth, confident. Yes. This is Daniel Cole. I believe you taught my son. Mark blinked. Ethan. Yes. And I'd like to offer you a position. An hour later, Mark stood on the same football field he'd walked off in shame the day before. Only this time, he wasn't alone. Daniel addressed the staff and students. Education should empower, not silence. Mr. Rivera embodies what schools are meant to be. He turned to Mark. I'm building a school where teachers are encouraged to inspire, not suppress curiosity. I want you as founding principal. Mark's voice shook. Why me? Daniel smiled faintly. Because when my son asked difficult questions, you didn't shut him down. You respected him. Ethan stepped forward. You made me feel brave, he told Mark quietly. Lily ran into her father's arms. Daddy, you're not in trouble. Mark knelt, tears filling his eyes. No, sweetheart. Sometimes, when you stand up for what's right, it takes a little longer for the world to catch up. Principal Howard watched as students applauded. Teachers who had once stayed silent now stepped forward. One by one. We'd like to apply to, a math teacher said softly. Howard stood alone. Power, without integrity, had collapsed in a single morning. Months later, the new school opened. Bright classrooms. Discussion circles instead of rigid rows. Scholarships for underprivileged students. Technology integrated with heart, not control. Mark walked through the halls as founding principal Rivera. But he never forgot the morning he was fired. Because that morning taught him something deeper than history lessons. It taught him that dignity is louder than authority. That courage echoes. And that sometimes, when you lose everything, it's only clearing space for something greater to land. Like a helicopter. Or hope. And every time Lily drew their family under that crooked yellow sun, she added something new. A bigger sky.